Hi, I'm Jeff Kusnikoff, the designer of this course, and for some of you, likely your instructor. I wanted to take a moment to introduce myself and then also walk you through some basics of the course before we really get started and the term really kicks into gear. I joined the Miami University faculty in 2013, and since then I've taught a variety of different classes, primarily in strategic communication, ranging from 100 level to 400 level classes. I'm also one of the designers of both of the applied communication degrees, our Bachelor's of Science in Applied Communication with a major in Health Communication, and also our new Bachelor's of Arts in Applied Communication with a major in Communication Studies. If you're majoring in either of those, you're likely going to run into me quite a bit since I'm one of the faculty members that teaches a variety of the classes in both of those majors, including this one, APC 201. What I want to do first is kind of talk you through how to get into the course and how to navigate through this and to an extent what to expect. Before I get into that, I want to reiterate or emphasize a couple things. So one is kind of my view of how a student should approach this and other online courses. The way I generally view this is that online courses should be just as rigorous, actually if not more rigorous, than a traditional face-to-face class. The reason I think it's going to be more rigorous is because a lot of the responsibility shifts from the instructor to the student. What I mean by that is I can post as many announcements or send as many emails as I want. It's up to you, the student, to read those and respond appropriately. So if I send out a reminder email or an announcement through Canvas that says there's an assignment due, make sure you're working on that, it's up to you to actually go and do that. When I'm in the class, every time I start a class, I typically say, here's what we have coming up, make sure you're working on this. And because I see students face-to-face in those classes, it serves as a good reminder. I don't get that FaceTime with you all in an online class. Instead, it's really up to you to manage your time wisely and to start working on things, and importantly, to read the content that we have. So I think that shifts a lot of the burden to students, so make sure that you're looking at what we have going on and that you're reading announcements and reading emails that your instructors are sending out. To be honest, I don't send out those reminders just to send out an email. I send it out because I think it's important and I want to make sure that all of my students are doing well in the course. But that also means that you're reading those and you're responding appropriately. The one other quick note I have is the content that we have in the class. The reason I put that content there is because it's to help you learn and understand some of the material. I'll say right now that many of the readings we have are pretty dense. Even for me, it takes some time to really read through them. That's one of the reasons why several of our modules are a couple weeks long, and I'll walk you through that in just a little bit. But for a lot of those, it takes some time for those readings to sink in, but the key thing is that you're doing them, that you're coming back to them when you've got questions, or you're contacting your instructor when you have questions. But I think a key thing to do well in this class is that you're reading through, you're keeping up with the course, you're looking through the content that we have, you're keeping up with what you should be working on, and that you're asking questions when you come into them. So that's enough about me and kind of a broad overview of the course. What I'd like to do is show you how to navigate through some of the content that we have, to an extent what to expect, and what some of our schedule and typical modules look like. So I'm going to shift to showing you what you might see as a student and what that student view looks like, and then we'll go from there. So you're likely going to see a screen very similar to this one when you log into the first time and log into our course. There are likely going to be some changes, namely I'm going to upload this video, and because the video isn't done yet, it isn't appearing here, but that's something that you'll likely expect. What I'd like you to do first, you can look at some of the information here, particularly the Getting Started section. I think the online essentials are also helpful if you're somebody who's fairly new to online classes. I put up some of the department information, but right now I don't think that's important for you to look at. And my instructor contact information is there, but that'll be in other parts of the course as well. What you can do first is click on modules. I typically like to do it on the left side of the screen here where it has modules, because that's typically always there. You can also do that by clicking on some of the modules here. I typically just go straight to the left side because I think that's just frankly easier. You're going to see a screen fairly similar to this one. I don't anticipate any major changes right now, but this is basically showing you several of the modules that we have. Now, for the time being, I said a couple of them as being accessible just so you can see them now. But a key thing to keep in mind is many of these modules won't unlock until set periods in time. So for example, Module 2 won't unlock until sometime in September. The reason I do that is because I only want you working on the modules that we need to, the modules that we're focusing on with our schedule, and I don't want you working ahead. It's very easy to become overwhelmed if all of the classes available to you at the get-go. Instead, this is a term-based course, so we have a pace that we're going to stick to, and that pace is set out in our schedule, which I'll show you in just a little bit. One of the things you should do first is go into Module 0, this Getting Started section. So you can just click on Module 0, and there are a couple things to go through. I'm expecting you all to look through this information because I think it's valuable and it's going to help you in this course by looking through some of this. I have some of the activities I want you to do in the module, but basically I want you to read through what's on this page, and you can very easily click Next in the bottom right to go to the next screen. With a lot of the content here, if you notice in the top right, it says mark as done. Some of the content I just want you to view. Some of it I want you to mark as done, noting that you've reviewed that information. So this page, which talks about the course syllabus, I want you to open that in a new tab. I want you to look through our course syllabus because that has some key information for you to know going into this course. So make sure you're looking at that information. I also have a downloadable PDF version of our syllabus that you can download by clicking on this link on that syllabus page. And this also lists some of our due dates, and I think that's important for you to look at. So I don't want you to just view it. I want you to actually physically go to this page and mark it as done, and then you can proceed on. I just think it's important that everybody acknowledges that you've looked through the syllabus. So this is the course schedule page. I want to make a couple quick notes here, and then I'm going to exit out just so we can talk about what the typical module looks like. I've set up two schedules here because I think both of them have their merits. So this one is our tentative course schedule, and this lays out what module we're covering and what topic is being covered in that module. So we've got module 0, and we know we're doing our course introduction. And then when module 1 unlocks, everybody should be reading chapter 1, and we've got this introduction paper and presentation that'll be due in that module. This is just a broad overview of what we have between each module and the topic. I also thought it would be helpful to have a more detailed schedule available to you fairly easily. And this is the suggested work schedule that I've developed. So this brings things a step further. It identifies the week of the term that we're in, the dates of that week, the module we're in, and then what I recommend that you do. So that could be something like read through the course content of that module like we're doing now, ask questions, etc. I also, on the future modules, have what you should be working on and what you should be submitting. I'm a big fan of working ahead on assignments. In my face-to-face classes, I typically assign assignments, talk about them in class, give students assignment sheets in as much advance notice as I can. Usually that's at least a couple weeks, if not a month for some of the assignments. And it's because I want to make sure you've got time to ask questions and to work on things in advance. So what I've done with this is kind of just do that for an online class. So for Module 1, in the first week of Module 1, everybody should be working on the introduction paper and presentation. I've got that noted here because what we've got going on is having people submit those the following week. So working on those early and then submitting them is something that's important for people to do. So that's why we've got the complete and submit introduction paper and presentation the following week. So if you're working on it this week, then you've got plenty of time to submit it the following week. In Module 2, I've got something similar. Work on Artifact 1, work on Campaign Part 1. Those are some assignments we're going to have coming up, and you'll notice those carry through until they're due. Oftentimes in some of our modules, they might be roughly 3 weeks long. For Module 2, 3, 4, and 5, they're each 3 weeks long. That's because there's some fairly heavy reading I want you doing from the book that we have. I think it's necessary to have that time to really read through things, to work on assignments, and to think through some of the content that we have. That's why some of those are 3 weeks long, because doing them in 1 week would just be rushing through them. And oftentimes these readings can take some time to really sink in and for you to really pull out some of the meaning from them. So the schedule is a great place to go to. And again, I want everybody reading through this. And we would just click next and go to the next page that we have. But generally what I want you to do is to pay close attention to what should be marked as done, what should be marked as viewed. You'll notice here I marked that course syllabus as done. I viewed those 2 pages, and Canvas is very clearly showing I'm in progress here. I've got this little, I've started this module, but I haven't finished it, but I can very, very easily see as a student what I would need to do for the rest of this module. So you'll notice a couple things for Module 0. I want you to view the textbook information. I've got a syllabus quiz for you to do. That syllabus quiz you can take as many times as you want. The important thing is I want you to pull out some key things from the syllabus, but you need to look through that information first before taking that quiz, but you can take it as many times as you want. There's no good reason you shouldn't get full points on it since you can take it over and over again. But do note the due date for that. That's something that's due before the Module 0 comes to a close, so make sure you're looking through those things. Besides Module 0, what I also want you to be working on in the first week of the term is our APA module. This is to help you look through APA. I'm going to mark some of these as being viewed or completed, so you need to go through this. There's also an APA quiz I want you to work on, but that's something we're going to be using in this class. And if you're a APC major, either a health communication major or communication studies, APA is something you're going to be using in basically all of your APC classes moving forward, so it's good to become accustomed to it now. The last thing I want to talk about in this video is what the typical module looks like. So Module 1 won't unlock until we hit that in the schedule, and typically what ends up happening is our week runs Monday to Sunday. So Module 1, for example, will unlock Monday morning at 12:01 a.m. During the week that we start Module 1, and then it'll come to conclusion Sunday at 11:59 p.m. On the appropriate date for that. What this has is I've basically separated up the modules into two big components. So the first one is kind of what I would call content. That's what I'm looking at here, where I've got an overview of Module 1, the readings that we'll have, and assignment information pages. Those are basically assignment sheets. It's what I would hand out in class to a student on paper to let them know, here is what you need to do with the assignment. I do those in advance so that students at least get a heads up of here's what we have coming up, start working on it, even though some of those might be due within that same module. So for this one, we'll look at assignment information page for the artifact assignment and also for the topics paper, and then I want everybody reviewing the course schedule again. That's that content portion of the module. The second portion of the module really looks at assignments or discussions. I want to make sure that those are very clear for people. So I've set up discussions for each module. Those aren't required of you, but I think they could be helpful. That's a place for you to go discuss content, things you might be considering, questions you've got, or maybe insight you have about the module, about the content we're discussing. But I wanted to build a place that you could go and talk about your understanding of material with fellow students, or even me for that matter. We also have two assignments due. Now, actually, this is the same assignment, just the two different portions of it. It's the introduction paper and the introduction presentation. Remember, those are assigned earlier on. In fact, I've got those in Module 0 in that assignment information page because I want you working on that in advance. But then that's due, in this case, September 18th for in Module 1 for the introduction paper and introduction presentation. If this is in a term other than fall or the first term that we're offering this, that due date might be a little bit different. But just make sure that you know that it's typically due by that date, by 11:59 p.m. Make sure you're looking in these in advance. When I click on the introduction paper, I have roughly the same information up here that I have on the assignment page. And that's given a video description of what's going on, and then also all the details you need, and then how you would go about submitting it. So you'd click on submit assignment. In this case, you're uploading a file as the paper. And then when we go to the next page, you're going to be sending in a link for the presentation, website URL, or media recording. So one of the things that I would encourage students to do, if you have questions, reach out to your instructor about them. He or she is more than happy to answer questions. I think it's really important in an online class for everybody to be on the same page, particularly in the first module and the first couple weeks of the term. So for this module, what you should do is work on Module 0, work on the APA module. Your instructor is going to be in contact with announcements, but just get a general overview of what we have going on this term and start to reach out to your instructor in case you've got any questions about them. So I hope this answered some general questions. I hope this gets you situated for starting Module 0. And again, if you've got any questions, feel free to reach out to your instructor. But I'm excited to see what you think of the material and your first introduction to health communication in APC 201.